My name is Paula Auer-Saupe. I'm an environmental engineer and an auditor for climate change protection projects since more than 15 years. I work for TÜV Süd and I'm responsible for the carbon business at TÜV Süd on a global scale. So, my presentation is already running, but you cannot see it. Maybe we can put it on the big screen. Yeah? Okay. So that's my agenda today. I would like to start with some current developments in the market. Then you cannot see, it's still a surprise. We are going to talk about how TÜV Süd can support you in your journey to net zero. And then we will have a deep dive into the verification of carbon footprint and the certification of climate neutrality. So, the basis to become carbon neutral in Europe is the European Green Deal. It was established in 2019 with the aim to stimulate the economy and to get a better life for the people who live in Europe. And with the next years, we will see regulations and laws to get more specifications in that regard. When we have a look at the Green Deal, we see there are a lot of different areas. So there's the efficient use of resources, there's the Circular Economy Act, which will look for sustainable products, and there is the financing of this transition. So financing will be very important in that area. And I would like to especially mention the EU taxonomy here, because the EU taxonomy is one standard for sustainability, which sets the first time thresholds for certain carbon emissions for certain industries. And it has a very holistic approach. It considers 6 areas like carbon mitigation, carbon adaptation, biodiversity, the prevention of emissions, also the efficient use of water and marine resources, and circular economy. So we see the topic of carbon neutrality is a very wide one. The next big topic to become carbon neutral is the topic of green hydrogen, or hydrogen in general. Because hydrogen is one pillar to decarbonize when electrification is not possible. And here we see the dark blue ones are the countries which have already developed a strategy for hydrogen. The light blue ones are the ones which are already working on it. And we are already talking about investments of about 5 billion euros in regard to hydrogen, which are planned so far. So also for the EU, hydrogen, the ramp up of hydrogen is very important. For the EU, especially green hydrogen is important. That means the production of hydrogen coming from renewable sources. And I picked up 3 example projects here. There's the HyDeal project, which is going or should be operational in 2030. And the goal of this project is to produce green hydrogen for 1.5 euros per kilogram. It's located in Spain. We have North H2, which is located in the Netherlands. And there they are specifically looking at the whole value chain of the production of hydrogen. So really from the renewable energy sources just until the supplier. Then we have the Hyperion project, which is in Portugal and which should already be starting in 2024. So we are in Germany, so also let's have a look at what Germany does in regard to green hydrogen. It's a very important pillar for us. Again, I picked 3 projects here. The Aquaventus project, which is in the North Sea. It's a cooperation of different companies. RWE is especially to be mentioned. And the idea is to produce wind energy in the North Sea and use it to produce green hydrogen in the haven. Then we have GET H2, which is located in Lingen. Again, a cooperation of different companies. OGE is there and RWE. And we have ThyssenKrupp H2 Steel, where they are actually applying green hydrogen in their production processes. So they use green hydrogen to produce CO2 reduced steel, which can then be used in the supply chain of a car manufacturer, for example, who again needs that to produce carbon neutral or carbon reduced cars. So let's stay with the example of Germany. We see that from the EU Green Deal, the countries are now adapting to the legislation. And in Germany, we have the so-called Klimaschutzgesetz, which says that until 2045, Germany wants to become carbon neutral. For companies, they have different goals. We saw our soccer players who want to become carbon neutral in 2025. Also for TÜV, that's the goal. We also want to become carbon neutral until 2025. So what does that actually mean for Germany? We can see here on the right the carbon emissions over the last 30 years. We see here it's 1990. There is a reduction that can be seen, which goes back to the unification of Germany, and a lot of power plants had to be closed due to the fact of the unification. We also see the Corona gap here. No? There was a lot of reduction here. But we can also see there is still a way to go until 2045 to achieve this goal. And IRENA, the International Renewable Energy Agency, identified 6 technologies which will be important to achieve this goal. So we have, of course, the renewable energies there. Energy efficiency measurements will be important. The scale up of hydrogen, but also carbon capture and storage, where we have biocarbon, which plays one of these possibilities. So, but everybody is talking about carbon emissions. The next big topic will be water. So today, I asked her, it's okay that I do that. So today, this is just a strange action, but in the near future, it might be a minor offense. In the wider future, even in crime. So, carbon is just the first step. We need to consider water as well. And the EU taxonomy has that already in mind, because one of the 6 pillars is already considering the efficient use of water. So, but back to our topic of carbon. There are different angles to look at the carbon footprint. We have the angle of product, the product view, which is the product carbon footprint, and of course the view of an organization, which is the corporate carbon footprint. And here again, the basis is life cycle assessment, where one pillar are the carbon removals. There are in total 16 parameters to be looked at. Acidifications, but also here resource depletion, water. So again, this is the future. There are more parameters coming, which we have to look at. So secret, open now, how can we support you in that journey? We were talking about that the goal of each of us is to become carbon neutral at a certain point of time. And of course, the first phase is to do the carbon accounting, to know, okay, where are my carbon emissions? And after that, I can reduce it. And TÜV can support you there with the verification of carbon footprints or certification of green hydrogen. Then energy efficiency measurements come into place to reduce the carbon footprint, where we are also active doing energy efficiency audits. And then phase 3, when reduction is not possible anymore, you need to think about compensation. And there we are active as an independent verifier for climate action projects. But we are also active in other areas. For example, we do water footprint. We are active for the Alliance for Water Stewardship standard. Life cycle assessment is not new to us, as well as recyclability and sustainable supply chain. So let's have a look at carbon footprint verification and climate neutral certification, although I'm not sure if I can tell you anything because you are already very well informed. So as mentioned before, there are different angles to look at the carbon footprint. First, there is the customer view on the project, so on the product management. The aim is to optimize the CO2 footprint of a product. This is interesting, for example, for an electric vehicle producer or for an industrial battery producer. There, ISO 14067 would be the norm to apply. Then we have the angle of the corporate management, which looks at optimization of carbon footprint for a company. There we have another norm which comes into force, ISO 14064. And based on these two norms, carbon neutrality can be achieved. At the moment, the applicable standard would be PAS 2060. But in the near future, ISO 14068 is coming into force. So what is PAS 2060? It's a British standard. The standard to use for climate neutrality at the moment. At the end of this year or the beginning of next year, we expect an ISO standard to come into place, which is actually based on the criteria from PAS 2060. How does the standard identify carbon neutrality? So it's the aim to not emit carbon emissions, and if emissions are there, they need to be compensated by certificates from reforestation projects or other nature-based approaches. So what are the 4 principles to become carbon neutral? The first is a robust GHG calculation, so really to go as close as to the source as possible. So we as a verifier, we like it when you show us electricity meter data or gas meter readings. This is what we like, because it's coming from an approved meter, it's recorded independently, and you will have a happy auditor if you show them that data. Next principle, you need a management plan. So you need to set a target until when you want to become carbon neutral, and then a robust roadmap how this target can be achieved. And of course, when we talk about compensation, that means the buy of certificates. It cannot be any certificate, but the certificates need to be of high quality, and we will have a look at that later. And of course, the data needs to be transparent and reproducible. There comes the science-based target into place. It was founded by IKEA and Amazon. Looking forward to hear the presentation of IKEA later on. It was established in 2015. Until now, more than 3,000 companies are already using it on a global scale. And they have like a 5-step approach to fulfill their criteria. So first, you have to show your commitment, then you have to create a roadmap to fulfill the criteria, then the criteria is validated, and then you can start communicating on them, and afterwards, each year, a verification is done. Here again, what needs to be in the carbon management plan. That's the plan showing how you want to achieve carbon neutrality, and you need to reduce the emissions step by step, and that until the year of carbon neutrality. What kind of certificates can be used at the end for the compensation? The carbons need to be reduced considering additionality criteria and avoidance of double counting. And there are specific standards which are accepted by PAS 2060. This is, for example, VERA or UNFCCC methodologies. There's like a lot of them already existing. I think more than 200 methodologies in different scopes which can already be applied. So I'm going to skip that, but I have a nice reference for you. TÜV Süd is active as a verifier since more than 15 years in that area, and we verified more than 1,000 climate change projects, leading to more than 100 billion tons of CO2. So we are well experienced in that area. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention and hand over to the next speaker.